Assalamu alaikum girls. Today the topic of my lecture is levels of organization. And in previous lecture, we have covered subatomic and atomic level. We have also covered molecular level, where I told you about biomolecules, that biomolecules do not exist in isolated form, rather they are complex structures. Then I also talked about organelle and cell level, how the biomolecule assemble in a particular way to become organelles, and then organelle assemble together to make cell. We talked about unicellular organization, multicellular organization, and colonial organization. So today, let's talk about tissue levels of organization. Before going into that detail, I have to tell you what is a tissue. A tissue is basically a group of similar cells specialized for the performance of a common function. Now, group of similar cells performing a common function. And there are so many cells, and all of them are having same structure and performing same function. Now, the girls, how can we achieve this level? We can achieve this level in multicellular organisms. Unicellular organism में तो achieve हो नहीं सकता, because that organism is single celled. So this is achieved in multicellular organisms where similar cells performing similar functions and make a group. अच्छा, थोड़ा सा मैं teeny weeny detail में जाऊँ, because at this stage you cannot understand what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is that different cells in our body have different structure, although the genetic makeup is same. I will tell you how it happens. Genetic makeup is same in one individual. Like me, if I talk about myself, my whole body cells have same genes, but my brain cells are different structurally. My tongue is different structurally. थोड़ा बहुत चेंज स्ट्रक्चर में आता है. वो कैसे आता है ये मैं बाद में बताऊंगी, later on someday. But ये बताना चाह रही हूँ कि there are different cells still. तो different cells, but बहुत सारे एक जैसे cells performing a common function becomes a tissue, like a nervous tissue, skin tissues, stomach tissues relevant to digestion, or tissues, muscle tissues performing, moving our bones, and things like that. If I look at this diagram, I'm sorry, and alhamdulillah, the first diagram on top is of a plant cell, and especially roots. ये meristematic tissues हैं जो कि आपको अभी नहीं मालूम, but leave it. These are the root tissues which are similar and performing same function. All the cells are performing the function of growth. They divide and redivide and are the reason of growth of plants. Okay? Look at this tissue, the second one. The second diagram is of cardiac muscles. दिल के muscles हैं. तो ये different cells हैं. ये आपको nucleus नजर आ रहा होगा. Different cells together make tissues, which are muscle tissues. Now this third diagram is of bones. Bones are very hard. Bones are also made up of living cells, chondrocytes or different kind of cells. Together makes bones. तो bone में भी जो है hardness आ रही है because of same cells having same function, performing same function. Look at this red blood cells. ये सारे blood cells हैं, and बीच में white blood cells भी हैं. But these red blood cells and white blood cells together make also tissue, which is connective tissue, जो कि later on fourth chapter में पढ़ेंगे. But यहाँ पे भी group of cells are performing a common function. They transport current nutrients to our whole body, while white blood cells perform different function, but overall connectivity का function है in cells का. So what is a tissue? Group of cells performing a common function. ठीक है? Now each cell in a tissue carries on its own life processes but it also carries on some special processes related to the function of tissue. यानी हर सेल अपना काम कर रहा है, जैसे रेस्पिरेशन, रेस्पायर कर रहा है, प्रोटीन सिंथेसिस और बेसिक काम अपना अपना कर रहा है. But overall, in a tissue, all these cells are performing a specialized function, which becomes the function of the tissue. यानी अपने अपने छोटे छोटे काम तो सब सेल कर रहे हैं. अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट, वो जो कॉमन फंक्शन है टिश्यू का, वो भी कर रहे हैं, which making them special, a different tissue, right? अपने अपने काम, साथ में एक बड़ा काम जो कि एक common goal होगा, which will be called as tissue. So let's move to the next slide. Example, there are different types of plant tissues and there are different type of animal tissues. I am mentioning few examples here as mentioned in the book. So I'm mentioning the diagrams. Epidermal tissue is mentioned in the book. ये चीजें clear आपको 4th chapter में होंगी, because I'm not going into the details of these tissues. But this is the diagram of epidermal tissues in plants. यानी ये कह लें कि this is the outermost tissues of plants, protecting them from external damages. यानी जैसा हमारी skin है, उसी तरह plants have a kind of skin. The outermost layer of cells is called as epidermal tissue. They are acting as a barrier, और उनके और भी बहुत से functions हैं. But the outermost layer in plants is called as epidermal tissues. And then there are other tissues, ground tissues, this diagram with purple cells and all that. These ground tissues have a common function of storing food. ठीक है, सब एक जैसे cells हैं. What is their common function? Storing food. Because of that, we call them ground tissues. और भी reasons हैं, but I'm not mentioning them all. Ouch. Again, सुबह सवेरे उठ गई है, which is creating a problem for me. बेटा मैं अभी ना lecture दे रही हूँ, wait करो. तो animal tissues, if I look at the examples of animal tissues, nervous tissues and muscle tissues. These nervous tissues are obviously located in the brain, and these are neuron cells. Again, you don't know the detail of neurons cells, but I will tell you later on. But these are the specialized cells of brain, and we know that neuron cells are involved in connectivity of brain with our whole body. तो ये इनका specialized function है. And the next, this one, tissues are muscle tissues. Muscle tissues का काम क्या है? They are mainly involved in movement of our body, like skeletal muscles. Not all of them. Skeletal muscles are involved in movement of our body. Cardiac muscles दिल में होते हैं, तो वो दिल की movement and all that. And smooth muscles are in our alimentary canal, digestive system, और भी जगहों पर हैं. That they are also involved in movement and contractions, but slow contractions. So these are different examples of tissue level of organization, right? So this is how it happens. We move from subatomic and atomic level to molecular level to cell level to tissue level. Now let's see what the next level is. The next level is organ and organ system level. And I can divide this level into 2 levels, which is organ level and then organ system level. So first, let me teach you what is organ level. In higher multicellular organisms, more than one type of tissue have related functions, are organized together and make a unit called organ. Obviously, this is happening in higher multicellular organisms, not in simple organisms, right? So there are different tissues in this case. Different tissues are obviously performing different function, but related to some common thing makes a unit called as organ. And they have more than one type of tissue, but performing related function, and then make a unit called as organ. I'll give you example and I'll explain it in a while. Different tissues of an organ perform their specific function, and these functions collectively become the function of that organ. For example, stomach, and for example, brain. Brain is also made up of different cells, again related to the common goal of connectivity, makes it an organ. Stomach is also an organ specialized for the digestion of proteins and for storing food. If we recall from previous classes, आपने digestive system का little bit knowledge है. What happens in stomach? You've studied its digestion of protein and storing food. What happens in small intestine? Complete digestion and absorption of nutrients. What happens in large intestine? It is absorption of water mainly. So there are other functions as well, but I'm talking about major function. So you know about digestive system. I will tell you a bit more detail of the stomach. Example of a stomach. In the stomach, there are two major type of tissues. Okay, number one is epithelial glandular tissue. Number two is muscular tissue. I repeat, stomach is an organ formed by the combination of two tissues. The epithelial glandular tissue is like a epithelial tissue is basically the tissue which is making the outermost layer of organs and innermost layer, outermost layer of even our body too, like skin. I repeat, in general, epithelial tissue is making the outermost layer of our organs and innermost layer of our organs and outermost layer of our body. So here in stomach, epithelial tissue has glands in it, which are secreting gastric juice. And there is another type of tissues called as muscular tissues, which are involved in the contraction of food. Acha, ek minute. Look at this diagram. On top, here there are epithelial tissues. Okay? And they have a gastric pit. Pit means ghada sa. So this pit is having gastric glands, chief cells हैं उसमें, which are secreting endocrine, enteroendocrine cells. Do not go into the detail of these terms, please. Terms नहीं पढ़ाई जा रही. I'm just showing you the diagram. इस gastric pit में यहाँ से gastric juice release हो रहा है. If you know, gastric juice in stomach is involved in chemical digestion of proteins. Or even if you don't know, you should know here कि gastric juice यहाँ से release हो रहा है, जो कि chemical digestion करता है stomach में proteins की. ठीक है, एक टाइप के सेल ने तो gastric juice release किया, दूसरे टाइप के सेल्स हैं ये muscles. देखें, oblique layer, circular layer, different layers हैं muscles की, longitudinal layer, लंबी सी layer, गोल layer of muscles and oblique layer. So these three different layers are making muscles in the stomach, and overall they are causing the contractions of stomach. Stomach जो है muscular level पर क्या कहते हैं उसको, chemical digestion है और एक है mechanical digestion. Chemical and mechanical digestion यानी कि एक तो chemical level पे breaking हो रही है, दूसरा contraction से यानी तोड़ा जा रहा है, muscles contract करते हैं slowly and gradually and breaks down the food into further pieces. This is mechanical digestion, and chemical digestion is happening with gastric juice. तो दो तरह के टिश्यू हुए ना कि one of them is releasing chemical and the other one is doing mechanical digestion, यानी contractions के जरिए, but both of them are doing digestion of food. So these tissues together makes an organ which is called as stomach, and they're doing this collective function becomes the function of stomach, right? Next slide. Organ system level. इसी तरह से all these organs related to each other makes an organ. यहाँ पे मैंने excretory system की example दी just to give you one little extra example. Otherwise, I'll focus on this example which is mentioned in your book. But let's talk about kidneys and ureter and urethra and urinary bladder. These organs together makes our excretory system. हमारे ब्लड में से तमाम वेस्ट प्रोडक्ट कौन निकालता है? किडनीज. तो दिस सिस्टम इज मेड अप ऑफ किडनीज, यूरेटर, urinary bladder, urethra, different organs hai. All these organs are performing different function. Mainly kidney is an organ, but ureter is performing different function. Urinary bladder is performing different function, but relevant to excretion. All these organs together makes an excretory system, right? So what I'm trying to say is here, different organs performing related functions are organized together in the form of an organ system. In an organ system, each organ is carrying out different function, its specific function, and that function is relevant to the function of whole system. And let's clarify this concept further by the example of digestive system. Acha, why we take an example of digestive system in early classes? Because you are familiar with the process of digestion in previous classes. It's easy to understand. So maybe digestive system ही की example ले रही हूँ to make it easy for you. आपने previous classes में ये पढ़ा हुआ है, the mouth and the esophagus and stomach, and this is stomach and small intestine, and this one is large intestine, rectum and anus, right? Liver is also supporting digestion and pancreas too. But these are the glands supporting digestion. Okay, leave it. Now here in digestive system, there are different organs performing different function. If you look at oral cavity is chewing the food. Esophagus is transporting the food to stomach. Stomach is involved in protein digestion. अब देखिए हर organ different काम कर रहा है. Stomach is transporting, digesting protein. Esophagus is transporting food. Oral cavity is digesting somehow, and the carbohydrate component of food. Mechanical digestion तो हो रही है ना, breaking down into pieces, and then in small intestine हर chemical release होता है, and it digests proteins and lipids and fats. और इसी small intestine के कुछ portions में absorption of nutrients होती है, and they go into the bloodstream. And then in the large intestine, for main function happening in the large intestine is absorption of water back into system. And later on, जो leftover रह गया है, leftover of food and debris, dead cells and जितना भी extra चीजें of food are released through anus out of our system, right? तो हर organ different function कर रहा है, but her organ is performing the function relevant to digestion. So all these organs together makes a digestive system. This is happening in every organ system level. That every different organ in a system is performing different function, but relevant to the overall function of organ system makes it an organ system. So this is all about organ system level, organ and organ system level, but there is only one point which is left behind, and it is mentioned in your book. The last two lines of this topic and on the next page creates a question. Why, and it comes in exams too, why organ system level is less complicated in plants? आपने कभी plants में digestive system सुना है? Or have you heard of nervous system in plants, or respiratory system in plants, or reproductive system in plants? No. Although respiration is taking place, connectivity is there in plants, reproduction is there in plants, but their system levels are not heard, are not complicated like animals. Why? In plants, these systems, root system, food distribution system is there, but is less complex. Why? Because animals are doing diverse kind of activities. Listen to me carefully. Animals are walking. Look at these pictures. It will clarify the concept. Animals walk, they run or jog, they swim, they eat with the help of hands. Animals can fly too. Animal doesn't include only human. Animal includes bird. They fly, they move, they mate, they fight, they swim, they eat. So animals are performing diverse kind of activities which plants are not. So animals' organ system, according to their demand, is more complicated because they are performing diverse kind of activities, while plants do not. Okay, the concept should be clear now. If you are not, if the concept is not clear to you, you can ask me questions anytime. Okay. So now let's move to the next level, which is individual level. If I tell you in my own words, all these organs and organ system will make what? Individual. Like if I talk about human example, the digestive system, nervous system, reproductive system, excretory system, respiratory system, circulatory system, and all these systems together will make one individual, and that is called as individual level. Basically, different organs and organ systems are organizing together to make a individual, and that individual can be horse, that individual can be a plant. Individual level exists in plants too, an individual plant. The digestive system, transport system, and the food system, and the respiratory system in plants together makes a whole plant. So is the case with the animals. Animal का reproductive system, respiratory system, nervous system, all these systems together makes an individual. In organisms, the functions, processes, and activities of various organ systems are coordinated. All these systems interact with each other. We cannot survive अगर हमारा nervous system coordinate ना कर रहा हो with our command, so with our all different activities, so we cannot survive. If I give my personal example, which I always give in class, but right now let me give here the example from today's environment. Right now I am looking at the screen, I'm looking at the pictures, and apart from that I'm reading and I'm looking, and my eyes is transporting information to brain, and my eyes are transporting different information. Apart from that, I'm keeping an eye on my child too, who is awake early in the morning right now, sitting on the sofa. May Allah keep her quiet. So she's staring at the books, and I'm looking at her as well. I'm keeping an eye on her. I'm moving my arms too somehow. I don't know, the gestures which we gave during teaching. And then I'm thinking as well what to teach and what to give example. But when we are in a order, क्या कहना चाहिए, the traditional classroom, we keep an eye on the students too, what they're doing, are they listening or not, are they attentive or not, what is happening, and then we move in the class. So everything is happening in the moment. Eyes is giving information to the brain, and then command is coming to the tongue muscles, to my arms and my legs. They are giving different gestures. My eyes is sending all kind of information, and then the thought process is happening in the brain. What to teach next, what to teach next, what to teach next. So everything is coordinated in an individual. Okay, all these organ systems are interacting with each other. Some of the interactions are known to us, but some of the interactions are not known to us. जैसे दिल के साथ भी इंटरेक्शन है नर्वस सिस्टम की, लेकिन हमें नहीं मालूम। हम दिल को रोक सकते हैं, रुक जाओ, अब धड़कना ही, या लंग्स को कहें बस, नो मोर ब्रीदिंग, आई डोंट सिक ऑफ योर ब्रीदिंग। सो ऐसा हम नहीं कर सकते, लेकिन हम अपने आप को खामोश रख सकते हैं, हम बोलना छोड़ सकते हैं, हम चलना छोड़ सकते हैं. But some of the actions are in our control, some of the actions are not in our control, but our body is controlling them, our brain is controlling them. Everything is coordinated, right? So let's look at this example mentioned in our book, in our course. When a man is engaged in continuous and hard exercise, strenuous exercise, not only his muscles are working, but also there is an increase in rate of respiration and heart rate. यानी जब हम exercise कर रहे होते हैं, we are not just the product of our muscles working hard. As soon as our muscles start working hard, our breathing rate exceeds. Our heart starts breathing fast. Oh, sorry, starts beating fast. Dug 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 dug, or lub dub lub dub, dug 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 dug. Isn't it so? और हम respire भी कैसे करने शुरू हो जाते हैं? If we do a very kind of strenuous exercise, soon after that, our breathing rate, our heart rate changes. This accelerated rate of respiration and heartbeat supplies more oxygen and food to the muscles with the need for the work. Basically, our muscles are doing hard work during exercise. तो उस hard work में the muscle cells and tissues, basically muscle tissues, needs energy. ठीक है? And that energy we know comes from respiration. When we respire, वो जो respiration का typical reaction आपने पढ़ा हुआ है, जब वो होता है, it provides energy, and it provides energy to every cell. The aerobic respiration, that energy is needed by these cells. तो उसके लिए जल्दी जल्दी हार्ट बीट करने शुरू हो जाता है. हार्ट बीट होगा तो जल्दी जल्दी ब्लड सप्लाई होगा to muscle cells and even to lungs. तो जल्दी जल्दी हमारी ब्रीदिंग होगी तो हम ऑक्सीजन जल्दी जल्दी इनहेल करेंगे ना. So all these activities are coordinated and we work in a coordinated action. This is what individual level is. Now let's move to the next level, which is population level. हमने बचपन से पढ़ा हुआ है population level, but इस तरह से coordinated way में we haven't studied. We have always studied them in a separate level. Population अलग, community in a separate way. Biosphere तो नहीं पढ़ा हुआ, लेकिन community, population, individual अलग अलग पढ़ते हैं, तो वो knowledge भी सही से coordinate नहीं करता. But today, inshallah, all these things will be coordinated into different levels. That different levels of organization are existing in living organisms, right? So biologists extend their studies to the population level, where they study interactions among the members of the same species living in the same habitat. Now, what is species? I'm not going into the biological definition of species because that is very complex. So right at this moment, I'm telling you, like a species of elephants all over the world is same. Species of horses all over the world is same, but it is different from elephants. There's another species of penguins, another species of humans, another species of monkeys, another species of donkeys. So did you get my point? These group of organisms, same individuals makes population of a species. So living in that particular environment. So what is habitat? A place where an organisms live. मैं easy definition दे रही हूँ. A place where an organisms live. So what is a population? A population is defined as a group of organisms of the same species located at the same place and the same time. I repeat, group of organisms of the same species located at the same place and in the same time. अगर हम पुराने जमाने में चले गए तो वो तो फिर डायनासोर भी आ जाएगा, डोडो बर्ड भी आ जाएगा. Okay? No. Same time, same place, and same organism, same species will be called as population. For example, population of elephant, population of horses, population of penguin, population of horses in Pakistan, or population of penguins on North Pole. Let's take an example. Human population in Pakistan in 2010 comprises of 173.5 million individuals. In 2010, okay, time year भी mention किए गए और population इंसानों की बताई जा रही है according to the Ministry of Population Welfare, Government of Pakistan. So this is how we calculated population in human in Pakistan. So that is an example of one population. We can also calculate horses and donkeys and monkeys, but that is what a population level is. Same species at the same time of same individuals will make it as population. Next level, community. We have heard it many times in our previous classes what a community is, but we never really understood. Actually, if I talk about myself personally, Hazaro dafa we study about population, community, but the concept doesn't sink. Please sink it today. Okay, what is a community? Different populations living together, jitni bhi mukhtalif population living together, interacting with one another in the same environment is called as community. A community is an assemblage of different populations. What is assemblage? Combining together different populations in one environment is called as community. जैसे ट्रॉपिकल रेन फॉरेस्ट कम्युनिटी बचपन से पढ़ते हुए आ रहे हो आप 7th 8th क्लास में द ट्रॉपिकल रेन फॉरेस्ट कम्युनिटी this jungle is of tropical rain forest. इसमें not only the plants are living, there are diverse kind of animals are also living, microorganisms, animals and plants, and we know that it is rich in biodiversity, which is rich in living organisms, different type of living organisms, right? Another community can be simple, a forest community होगी और a fallen log, ये आगे जाकर एग्जांपल आएगी तो मैं अभी पिक्चर दिखा दूँ. A fallen log, ये लकड़ी का तना जो गिरा हुआ है, इसके नीचे भी छोटे छोटे कीड़े मकोड़े, the insects, the ants, the different kind of insects, the different kind of plants are will start to live under the log, लकड़ी के तने के नीचे. This is an example of a simple community where छोटी छोटी populations are living together under this log, चाहे वो पौधे हों, चाहे वो animal हों. So this is an example of a simple community. And then there is another example of a pond community. This diagram is also depicting pond, right? A forest may be considered as a community. It includes different plants and microorganisms and fungi and animal species, as I told you in this tropical rainforest community. कि बहुत सारे animals and microorganisms and fungi and together makes it a community. Communities are collection of organisms in which one population may increase and other may decrease. यानी एक population बढ़ रही है आबादी में, flourish कर रही है, and the other population is depriving of different facilities. Because of that, that population is declining. उसका आबादी कम होती जा रही है. So it happens in communities. One is thriving and the other is facing difficult time, right? So there are different type of communities, complex communities and simple communities, as you can see. Some communities are complex, like a forest community, where look at this diagram, this one is a forest community depicting many different kind of plants and animals living in the particular environment. And then there's a pond community. Look at this. A pond has a combination of different plants living at its edges and even in the water, and different animals and fishes together makes it a community. While a simple community is the one like a fallen log example, which I told you in this picture here. Okay? A fallen log with various population under it is an example of simple community. In a simple community, number and size of population is limited. जैसे fallen log में population मुख्तलिफ किस्म की रहेंगी, but थोड़ी रहेंगी ना. Variety is less and the quantity is also limited. So any change in biotic or abiotic factor may have drastic and long-lasting effects. So what is a biotic factor or abiotic factor? As the name shows, biotic factor means a factor of living organisms. A living thing is affecting in a bad way or in a good way. So it's a living factor, a factor of living things. What is abiotic here? Again, A means not biotic, not. A means no, biotic means living thing factor. So a non-living factor will be called as a abiotic factor, like stones or a water. Water is not a living thing, okay? So simple community may, the organisms are so less in number, the population is so limited. Because of that, any change in some living factor or non-living factor have very deep effects, long-lasting effects, can have very damaging effects. Okay, so simple communities can be affected negatively very easily as compared to complex communities because they are big and diverse and strong. They can survive the negative effects more than a simple community. Can you understand my concept here? What I'm trying to say? Simple community drastic effects को, bad effects को बहुत ज़्यादा बर्दाश्त नहीं कर सकेगी, while the complex community can face drastic effects somehow, not in a extremely bad way, or not in the long lasting in long term, not in the long term, but as compared to simple community, complex community can face problems more. Biosphere level, the last level. Okay, हम चले थे atomic and subatomic level, molecular level, and then the next stair is of organelle and cell level. Another stair is of tissue level. Another big level is organ level, and then another level is organ system level. Then we move to the next stair. हम ऊपर की तरफ जा रहे हैं on the staircase. Individual level, and then the population level, and then the community level, and now I'm talking about biosphere level. What is this? We haven't heard this term before, but again, the bio means life, sphere means circle. So this is a level which is kind of encompassing all communities on Earth. Actually, look at this diagram. You can see geosphere, you can see lithosphere, cryosphere. There are different spheres. Hydrosphere, as the name shows, includes water all over the face of Earth. While cryosphere, I googled it for you. I wasn't aware of these spheres. Cryospheres includes the frozen water, ice, frost all over the Earth. Jahan jahan pe bhi, North Pole, South Pole, our northern areas, and everywhere where there is frozen ice, जहाँ पे भी glaciers हैं, इस तरह की चीजें हैं, that becomes cryosphere. Lithosphere is the part of hard earth, the outer crust of our earth makes lithosphere. But what is biosphere? Look at this diagram. Oops. This is the top of earth, which includes all the living organisms, whether in water, whether on this crust. अच्छा, अर्थ क्रस्ट इज अ वेरी, आई मीन हमें तो लगता है ना कि जब आप ज्योग्राफी में पढ़ा था कि अर्थ क्रस्ट तो बहुत छोटी सी लेयर है अर्थ की, बट इवन देन फॉर लिविंग ऑर्गेनिज्म इट इज क्वाइट डीप. तो जहाँ जहाँ जिस लेवल पर मिट्टी के अंडरग्राउंड माइक्रो ऑर्गेनिजम्स हैं, और टॉप पे प्लांट्स हैं और एनिमल्स हैं, और हवा में जहाँ जहाँ एनिमल्स हैं, all these communities of earth makes biosphere. Let me read the definition. The part of the earth inhabited by organisms communities is known as biosphere. Jahan jahan communities हैं. Okay, you know that North Pole and South Pole is scarce of communities, but still there are some plants, different plants and animals living over there, especially animals, the penguin and the birds we have seen in documentaries. So, but लेकिन scarce हैं. But the tropical rainforest is rich of biodiversity of living organisms. Okay, all the communities on Earth together makes biosphere level. It constitutes all ecosystems and is called as the zone of life on Earth. All the ecosystems of Earth makes as zone of life on Earth. Now I have to tell you, I'm bound to tell you what is ecosystem. Actually, ecosystems are areas where living organisms interact with the non-living component of the environment. Look at this diagram. यहाँ पे जितने भी living organisms हैं, like the human, the animals, the fishes, are also animals interacting with the soil or interacting, and human is interacting with the soil, gardening or खेती बाड़ी सारा कुछ. The non-living component is water, and snow interacting with the plants. Plants need water, and the recycling of water in through plants and the air, and fishing, how the human is fishing. I mean, fishing is just an example, but how the human is sitting on the stones, interacting with its non-living environment. Okay? So the interaction of living things with the non-living component in the environment makes it an ecosystem. So all the ecosystem on our earth makes it as zone of life on earth, and all the communities on earth makes it biosphere level. So this is all about levels of organization. This is the biggest level of organization. You can recall this whole lecture, and you can pinpoint your problems and tell me what your difficulties are. I will address them soon, inshallah. So Allah Hafiz from now. Okay. Uh, Let me stop sharing it to stop share. And Allah Hafiz. Stop recording.